one of the frauds that I think came about from Nathaniel Popper's investigation was the matter of the CEO. So do you want to take that one, Jonny? The name of the CEO and how these guys found the CEO?
Michael Edwards, who, if you looked at his photo, looks strikingly like Ray's grandfather, was the fake CEO, or you actually switched his photo out. So yeah, Michael Edwards was a fake CEO. People were asking a lot of questions. Who are these guys? Who is this Ray Trapani? These three guys from Long Island, are they really experienced enough to run this crypto company? So Ray and Sorby did what anyone would do, and they Googled old white man and found the first photo, slapped it up on LinkedIn, slapped it up on the Centra website, said he went to Harvard also, and called it a day. They had a brand new CEO with some legitimacy.
And called him a co-founder of the company too. But this house of cards too would crumble fantastically. And here's a little bit of that from the Netflix film Bitcoin.
Hello, I'm Michael Edwards, founder and CEO of Centra Tech.
Is that who you really are?
No, that's not who I really am. I'm Dr. Andrew Haleko. I'm a professor at the University of Manitoba. On August 25th, Michael Edwards suddenly left this world. He leaves behind his French bulldog, Stanley, and an accomplished career as an investor and VP for Wells Fargo and Chase. He graduated with an MBA from Harvard University, which prepared him for his most recent venture as co-founder and chief executive officer of Centra Tech in Miami Beach, Florida. That's pretty creepy. Wow. Well, at least I had an MBA and I was well trained at Harvard. I hadn't realized that they had actually gone to that extent.
Michael Edwards was never even a real person. Not at all. We completely created him from scratch. The photos for Michael Edwards were just taken off Google. We just looked up old white guy. Looked at all the images and found an old white guy. And just took that image and, that was Michael Edwards.
Oh my God. And then you killed him off, Ray, when the press was sniffing around with an obit, a fake obit about his French bulldog Stanley. The audacity. Who wrote the obit?
That's the nice little touch, though.
What, the French bulldog? And the crazy thing is that guy's like the sweetest man in the world. I feel terrible for that guy. And he took it really well. Like, as far as like, I even seen him recently, like on Twitter, like promoting the documentary.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. So he's I feel sorry for him, but it's a hopefully he's not too upset about it at this point.
I was actually shocked he did that scene, because when we listened to Sorby's trial, there was like a dial-in thing during COVID. I truly felt the worst for him out of like every victim, because he didn't invest anything. He's like teaching a class one day, and then like the Mounties and the FBI roll up and they're like, "We need to talk to you." And apparently he's like the sweetest guy ever. So
he seems pretty sweet. Who wrote the obit? Who came up with the French bulldog Stanley? I'm just curious.
That's definitely a Sorby thing. As soon as you hear French bulldog, I think of Sorby or Bert, for if anything.
Oh my God. So
I was never a French bulldog guy.
It's incredible. And now you need a new fake CEO, and this is where your grandpa comes in, your 79-year-old grandpa. So you put his picture on there and a new profile, fake, for him. And not surprisingly, Nathaniel was not fooled, and pretty soon unearthed the fact that this is your grandpa and not another Harvard grad.
Yeah, no, I don't think we put him even as a Harvard grad. We used his real background, and we just put his real name as the CEO. So like essentially, I even asked him before I did it, which I feel bad that I even asked him, but it was a weird one because he was like on his deathbed at that point.
Okay, but he has no experience in this lane, so it was clearly just a figurehead that, was meant to stave off further questions. It didn't work. And then just as things are looking pretty dire, like the New York Times is on to you. I think the New York Times piece had hit, and it was extremely unfavorable. Like like the tech guy who mistook you for another company and wrote this favorable article, in come the South Koreans and resurrected Centratech for no good apparent reason. I don't understand at all how they sniffed around and said, sure, I want in. So explain what happened with them.
Yeah, so even though the New York Times article was bad and people make it sound more dire than the situation was, no one started taking their money out. Everybody, because the price was being controlled on the back end by me, it kept going up. Everybody was, they would be like, oh, the New York Times is just, this is a hit piece. They were just like, no matter what would happen, as long as that price was going up, everybody stayed around. And then the South Korean thing comes about. They came into the chat rooms and they're like, oh, we want to invest big money. And everybody says big money, like we're like, all right, yeah, sure. And they're like, you got to come to South Korea. And we're like, yeah, sure. We're definitely not going to South Korea. But then right away, they just send $5 million. We're like, oh, shit. I guess we'll go to South Korea. But I wasn't going to go. I was not going to South Korea. And Sorby just jumps on a plane by himself and goes down there to present. Basically, we hadn't finished developing the app. The app was like in a prototype stage right there at that point. It wasn't finished, but we basically connected it to our bank account so that if he swiped his card, it would look as if the app worked properly.
But it didn't. He goes over to South Korea. He meets with these execs, and you're supposed to have this dazzling demo of an app that will at least look like it's working, and it didn't.
Yeah, the app definitely didn't work, and then Sorby doesn't answer for about 8 hours there, or whatever amount of hours. And so I'm like, Sorby died. At that point, I was sure Sorby was dead.
Right.
Yeah, because they had already invested $5 million, right? So it's like there's real pressure there. It's not like they can just be like, all right, whatever. So then out of nowhere, he answers whatever amount of hours later, and he's just like, the app didn't work, but they still invested. And the only take that I could get from that is that money was also criminal proceeds. And that's like a lot of cryptocurrency, is that they joined in on the fraud. Everybody, like even the YouTubers, right? They're all complicit in a way in this fraud. As much as we're the co-founders and we're the reason for this fraud, if you're going to know something's a fraud and then you're going to promote it, and then these guys see the app doesn't work and they're still going to invest and take a lot of the percentage, everybody's complicit at that point.
That is a very good point. That actually, I hadn't even considered that until you just said it. Of course, that's the reason. Why else would they give you? How much additional money did they give you after that initial 5 and then the failed app?
10. Another 10. 15 million total.
Another 10. Oh my God. You're right. That makes perfect sense. So what leads to the downfall? How do we go from 15 million cash influx? Maybe we are going to be legitimate. We dodged the New York Times storm. We weathered it. What led to the implosion? Yeah,
so pretty shortly after that, me and Sorby, I went and lied on the stand for Sorby in his DWI case, and I got a perjury charge for trying to lie on the stand for him. And
wow.
After that, we were like, put out a press release that we were stepping down from the company. Sorby stayed on, and basically me and Sorby got in a really bad fight because I was still trying to pay back the debts that we had built for Miami Exotics. Even though we had all this money, I was like, all right, let's take some of this money and pay off these debts. And he was trying to not pay it. So I got like in a bad argument with him, and I left the company. So like what people don't realize is I never made any money from investor funds ever throughout this whole time. Sorby had those wallets himself. And this is also why my sentence was what it was. It's just they highlight me in the documentary because of I'm the one in it. So I made all my money. I made all my money off selling Centra tokens myself after the fact.
Okay. So, but what you lied in the DWI. Can I just ask, I know this is probably small ball after the frauds that we've been discussing, but was there any pause about lying on the stand? I'm a former lawyer, recovering lawyer. So I just always feel like you take the oath to tell the truth, right? And then you lie. Like that had to be scary. Explain it.
Yeah, I mean, Sorby had this DWI from before I even linked back up with him from years ago. It was like his 17th DWI, and he was going to lose his license. He asked me to do it. We flew to New York. I wasn't with him the day he got it. So we went to the restaurant where he had got this DWI. We kind of studied the room so I would have like the correct answers. His lawyer prepped me on what to say, basically, which is a crazy fact of the case. And I just kind of went up there and said what I was told to say, that he only had one glass of Pinot Grigio. And from there, pretty much got arrested shortly after that.
Oh, what was the outcome of his trial?
It sounds like hard to do, but I was under a lot of, taking a lot of Xanax. I mean, it didn't feel hard at the time.
Did he get off?
No, we both, he ended up getting charged for that. I don't know what his result, I think we both got charged of perjury. That ended up being my first felony.
Oh, okay. And why do you say, Jonny, this part drives you crazy?
Because, I mean, you mentioned several times about how everything seems so brash, everything the audacity of everything. Ray's and Sorby's their weight for risk reward, it needs to be recalibrated, in my opinion. It's so out of, there's no reason, at this point, Ray is business partners with Sorby, but it's not like he necessarily likes him. So why would you do that? And we've talked about this a lot, and the answer is, oh, why wouldn't I do it? I know how to talk on the stand. I would do it for you. And I was like, that it doesn't really compute. But Ray just has a very different, weight of risk and reward.
Credit card rewards like cash back can empower families with extra savings while they deal with the rising price of groceries and gas. But our sponsor, the Electronic Payments Coalition, says some DC politicians are partnering with corporate megastores to take the cash back rewards away from families during skyrocketing inflation. Specifically, they say the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill would take billions from American families, lining corporate pockets instead. Learn more at electronicpaymentscoalition.org and see for yourself if you want to protect credit card rewards and tell DC politicians to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. That's electronicpaymentscoalition.org. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.